Hey gang, what's going on? Welcome back to another edition of Intuitive Angling here. Really appreciate you guys taking some time out of your day to watch the videos. Never take that for granted. And today I'm going to give you guys, sort of have a little discussion, give you guys some of my thoughts on how catching catfish while you're bass fishing can tell you a lot about the bass behavior and what they're doing and how you need to be fishing to catch them. I think you guys will find it pretty interesting. And real quick before we get started here, guys, just want to give you guys a weekly reminder. Anybody out there interested in becoming a member of the channel, it's one of the greatest things you can do to help support what's going on here. The channel members that get extra videos that aren't seen by the public every week, access to my personal email address. You can become a member just by going to the About section on my YouTube homepage, click Intuitive Memberships, and it gives you all the information. And also check out our merchandise we have there too. We got a bunch of t-shirts, cups, all that type of stuff. Much appreciated. Okay guys, catfishing here. Catfish while you're catching bass. I know it's pretty disappointing, you know, when you're bass fishing out there and you catch a big catfish or a drum or something like that. A lot of times it's pretty disheartening, especially in a tournament. But one of the things that you need to remember is when you do catch a catfish specifically, take that as a positive thing, because there's two things that really happen here. First of all, when you catch a catfish, you're in a good area, because, you know, catfish are predators just like bass are, and they're in areas that have high concentrations of food, whether it be crawdads, perch, you know, shad, that type of stuff. I mean, a channel catfish and a flathead catfish, a blue catfish, they feed on many of the same type of things that bass do, and they'll actively chase and hunt them just like bass do. So when you catch a catfish, consider that a plus that you're in the right area. Now, specifically, what I feel that catfish can tell you when you catch catfish, bass fish, and what it can tell you about the bass, in my experience, is that when you catch a catfish, it's a general sign that the fish in general are more active that particular moment that you're out there. And you've got to take advantage of that activity, or that increased activity, with your bass fishing. And generally, for the most part, that means going to a reaction bait or a moving bait, specifically a crankbait. I have found when I'm catching catfish, you know, whether if I'm catching the catfish on a spinnerbait or crankbait or jig or whatever, if I'm catching catfish, I can switch over to some type of a crankbait, specifically some type of shallow to medium running crankbait, and it allows me to catch a lot more bass. Now, this is just something that I have seen. I've seen it through reproducible results in my own fishing. And some of the lakes where I've caught lots of catfish, this is generally how it works out. I mean, I've caught lots of catfish on places like Lake Pickwick in Alabama, Lake Chickamauga in Alabama, Grand Lake in Oklahoma. You catch a ton of catfish up there. Lake Eufaula in Alabama. There's been many things that stick out for me as far as catfishing goes. And almost every time when I'm catching catfish like that, if I go to some type of like a square bill crankbait or some type of a smaller crankbait that runs in that 3 to 6 foot zone, I start catching more bass. Another thing that I found out about catfish, as far as when you're catching bass on them, is that if I'm catching a lot of catfish on whatever bait that it is, I can't catch many, like on a jig or a worm or a football head jig. I can't catch many bass on it. It's like I've got to go to some type of a moving thing. Again, crankbait's my number one thing, followed up by possibly a spinnerbait or a chatterbait, something like that. So in general, what I'm saying here, guys, if the catfish are active enough and aggressive enough to hit a moving bait or some type of an artificial bait, is a good sign that the other fish are active too. Because catfish, I think they feed obviously a lot more by smell. So they are reaction strike feeders, but their primary forage, you know, or their primary, you know, method of getting food is through smell, whether it be dead food or live food like that. So take advantage of that. If you guys are catching catfish, put you on some type of a crankbait that runs less than 5 feet deep, and get in those same type of areas where you're catching a lot of catfish, and that's usually around some type of rocky banks, specifically this time of year, because catfish will spawn around shallow rocks a lot this time of year. And one of the best ways to catch, you know, bass and an occasional catfish too is by cranking those rocks in the summer. So anyway, quick video, guys. Hope that helps out, and we'll talk later. See you.